to introduce is NJV. NJV is actually the overall holding company. I have several initiatives, and one of the things that I'm going to introduce today is the one around cyber compliance. So NJV is just the holding company for our various activities that we're doing. Okay. Now, before I go into like the assumptions, you know, we were talking about this with Luminari, and the real assumptions about the needs of companies, particularly around training and those sorts of areas. And that also led me to think about the assumptions and stereotypes that people have about Japan, about how it's Japan Inc. and everyone's working in these large corporations, you know, going to work in suits. That stereotype is shifting a little bit, but there still is, or many people that still hold that stereotypical image. The reality, however, is quite different. In reality, 99.7% of the enterprises, businesses, companies, organizations in Japan are or fall under the definition of the Japanese government's SME and how they're defining SME. Just over, about 3.3 million businesses fall under this category, and about 70% of the people in Japan are employed in this category. And that number rises actually to 90% when you go into the rural areas. And these can be everything from small little family businesses to what we call the hub and spoke businesses that are part of a larger supply chain, doing very specialist needs in a part of a bigger supply chain. The chairman of the Japan Chamber of Commerce, JCCI, he talks about something what's called an Ishigaki theory. The Ishigaki theory is one, I don't know if you've ever been to Ishigaki, it's an island in the Okinawan Islands. And they create walls by being able to take large stones and small stones and build walls without any need for cement or filler. They just fit them all together and it works. And it holds up that wall. And that's that Ishigaki theory about the collaboration between small and large enterprises and companies in Japan and how they look at that supply chain. So rather than that very sort of linear upstream, downstream that we look at, think of it more of a sort of a hub and spoke type of model, as well as, of course, the more traditional upstream, downstream model. And when it comes to, when you think of that hub and spoke, it very much is like a hub and then specialized spokes. You will have companies that will specialize in 2 or 3 things, and that will be all that they do, but they do it very, very well. And they may supply many, many larger organizations that need that specific area. Now, you may be wondering why I'm going into the detail about all this discussion. It will become obvious later on in my presentation what the connection is then with threats and risks and the need for more cyber resilience. But just before I go into this, I will want to pull out one thing that also came from JCCI, and that is that the SMEs, particularly the S of the SMEs in Japan, really do have the potential to innovate, to adopt new technologies like generative AI, other emerging technologies like blockchain and areas like that, much faster in some cases than the more traditional larger companies for 3 main reasons. One, they're much closer to what's called gemba, or like the front line or in the factories. Number 2, faster decision making because they're smaller, they're nimble. And number 3, just because of the nature of the business, they have been used to being able to adapt and change a lot more than, say, a much larger corporation that can afford to keep things or can afford to go at a slower pace. So they have that potential to innovate, but what is stopping them from realizing that potential? And that's what we're going to explore. So the changing landscape that's really speeding up the changes in SMEs in Japan, those that are embracing it and those that are perhaps dying off. You know, the bankruptcies in Japan must have been some of the highest in the last couple of years. Due to a number of factors, not just changing, it's also succession planning and other things like that. But there's kind of a perfect storm of changing landscape in Japan. It's not just about the emerging technologies, but there's some other macro factors that are also impacting the need for them to shift and change the way that they operate and do business to stay competitive and stay viable. So we're going to explore a little bit about that changing landscape next. So the first one is the change in the increase in risk exposure. So what do I mean by the change in risk exposure? Well, there are several macro areas at play here. The first one is the economic changes in the last couple of years. By that, I mean the weakening yen, which really can have a significant impact on the ability for businesses to be able to continue, especially if they're in the areas of retail or food industry or anywhere that relies a lot, or including manufacturing that relies a lot on parts or raw materials where they are importing. We all know that Japan relies heavily on importing in a number of industries. And with the weakening yen, that makes it a lot more expensive for these companies to import what they need in order to sustain it. You may have heard that, well, you know, the other way around, well, the exporting for Japanese companies, that's beneficial, right? Because, you know, weakening yen means that they can export and at a more competitive price. Unfortunately, the data, according to the sources that I've read, is that the major beneficiaries of the weakening yen in terms of the exporting are the final producers, meaning those larger organizations, and not the smaller SMEs that tend to be part of the domestic chain and are being competitively pressured for that pricing adjustment to almost like their profit margins being squeezed to a point where it's very difficult to continue. The second macro factor that's impacting them is in two parts. One is the demographics. We know that Japan is one of the fastest aging countries in the world. And with that comes a whole series of challenges, a shrinking workforce. Although some of that workforce has been bolstered by a lot more females. There are more females now working than there were, say, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. But there's also more elderly and seniors that were working past what used to be the traditional retirement age. However, there is a lot of problems in the SME about succession planning. So when you've got companies that are very specialized in doing what they're doing and may have been doing that for several years, maybe generations, what we're seeing is that the younger generation, when it's a family business, may not want to take that business over. Or the practices, when you've got perhaps, for want of a better word, leaders who have been used to be doing it one way for 20, 30, maybe even 40 years and are very resilient or resistant to change rather, and are finding it difficult to make the changes to then be able to attract the younger workforce talent that's needed to be able to help them continue in their field. And then, of course, the final macro challenge is the challenge from overseas, and we talked about that a little bit earlier with the weakening yen, that doubling there, and things being made faster, cheaper overseas, not necessarily, and often in many cases, not to the same level of quality, which impacts output, but we are, unfortunately, in a world today where speed and output is sometimes valued more than actually the quality of the output. We see this I don't know about you, but I've seen this over the decades in terms of just the quality of clothes, for example. You used to wear them, could keep them for years and they'd still be fine. Now you wash them a couple of times and they fall apart. So this is that sort of speed and getting things out in quantity over that quality. And Japan stereotypically, for the most part, really excels in that quality and expertise that's not quite as valued as much on that global scale. So that's the macro trends. Going on to another trend that is impacting their change, and that is digital transformation. Now, you will probably be aware that there has been a huge push over the last few years from the government and also private sector as well, but particularly from the Japanese government for small businesses to really transform their business practices from the sort of analog and way that they've been doing business for many years to more digital ways of operating. From the government's perspective and the economy as a whole, that makes sense because you want things more connected, you want things more efficient, you want things moving into the direction that the rest of the world is going. But this opens up challenges because what's happening is that you've got small businesses, particularly those businesses that are industries that are not that technical. They are focusing perhaps in areas that haven't really needed the technology. But they're getting the grants and they're getting the support to be able to push and digitalize. But they're doing this with very little expertise and very little understanding of what they actually need to do. And so instead of approaching it from a strategic perspective of, okay, let's look at our business, which parts of these could we perhaps focus on and prioritize and digitalizing and first, and which parts actually can wait until later or don't really need to be changed. Instead of taking that approach, they're more succumb to like the bells and whistles of new technologies or off-the-shelf or expensive offerings that A, they have no clue on how to operate, so then they have to, get, specialists in to operate it, and B, perhaps didn't even really need in the first place. I often use the analogy of, yes, it must be wonderful to have like a Formula One racing car, but if your mechanics can only work on bicycles, then you've got a useless, very expensive piece of machinery that's not going to be of much use. So being able to match the speed and the strategy and where the business needs to the technologies that they need is vitally important, and we're not seeing that. What we're seeing is that mismatch there. And then because of that mismatch, you're now introducing holes and vulnerabilities that weren't there before. So before, when you may have had things on paper or you may have had things by fax, yes, of course, there were risks with that. But now you've got digitalization, you've got them moving on to CRMs that are controlled by third parties. You've got them now putting their data, now being connected digitally to upstream and downstream vendors that they weren't before. So now you've got those risks. And every time a new link, a new integration is introduced into the mix, you're opening up these new vulnerabilities. The other one is that I talked a little bit about the minimal expertise, but there's also the minimal resources. So they may start doing something like this, they may buy into these tools, but they're not having the expertise nor the resources to keep them going, and it may only get semi-used, again, introducing further risk when things are not being properly managed, not being maintained, not being controlled. Another area, because the SMEs are, and particularly small businesses are being really pressured and encouraged to move into this sort of the digital. And when I say use a digital transformation, I mean it in the broad senses of the world. I don't mean just like specific operational digital transformation. I mean anything where you're using technology to bring them onto something that's either online or digital or automated in a way that they weren't doing it before. And when large companies do this, they'll obviously often bring in specialist integrators, consultants, and they'll do it over like a 12-month project, and they're looking at the risk, they're looking at many aspects of it. Small businesses often don't have that luxury, and there's often very little information tailored to help small businesses and medium-sized enterprises cope with not just the buying of the shiny new tool, but what does that mean in terms of actual integration? What does that mean in terms of actually training your staff to be able to shift and change the way that they've been working? You can't just throw a manual at them and expect them to understand it. And that is often lacking. And because that's lacking, you're again then introducing more and more risk with every lack of understanding and door that leaves open. And that brings to the final point I've got in this area, which is the domino effect. So the cyber domino effect is something that the Japanese government mentioned it was the METI actually that mentioned in their white paper in 2024. And what they meant by that was because of the risks that are being opened up through that transformation of the small and medium businesses, it's actually having that knock-on effect, or that what we call the domino effect of a chain reaction of damage, not just from the small little specialized company that may been exposed, but all the business operations and vendors that may be attached to them or using the same sort of automated or linked systems upstream and downstream there. And that's what they're calling the cyber domino effect. So it's no longer about just that particular small business or small SME. If they have a problem, whether it's a cyber attack or some sort of internal issue, it does then have a knock-on effect, sometimes right up to the larger organizations. You can imagine then the concern that came out of that when they realized just the huge potential for catastrophe here. And that led to a lot of changes, new regulations, guidelines, support, and budget being put on to try and solve this problem. Before we go into a little bit more of what the government's been doing, I'm going to now turn to the other side. That we've talked about the risk exposure. But with every risk, there's always the other side of the coin. Say, well, what's the probability of that risk being taken advantage of by those with a bad intent? We're going to look at that next. So, the increase in threat exposure. Often, you would think like, people that are wanting to do nefarious activities, those bad actors, they're wanting to go where the largest, gains are. Where can they make the most money? And that was true many years ago when they're first going out. You go for where you can make the most money. You want the biggest bang for your buck if you're doing it for financial gains. If you're going for a reputation, again, you want to have like the big clout, something that's going to get a big name for yourself. However, more and more these large organizations or these so-called larger targets have invested and now have, it makes it harder and harder. They have more and more secure, they have the resources in place to protect them and make them more resilient against these attacks. Therefore, they're harder and harder to penetrate the same way that cyber criminals used to do in the past. So what they're doing now is that they're looking for other targets, and that is where SMEs increasingly are becoming targets. And especially when the threat vectors are moving away from what used to be many years ago, malware, payload deliveries, all the very sort of technical ones. A lot of it nowadays is through social engineering. That is the way to get attention. So that's why the most common threats that the SMEs are hitting are things like phishing, because they're not having the training or the understanding to recognize when something is not with a genuine email or SMS or whatever vector it's delivered them through. Malware, because they haven't been keeping their OSs up to date, or they don't have the right security solutions installed in their systems, or maybe not comprehensive enough, or maybe it's out of date. Data breaches due to either real intent or just carelessness or just pure ignorance and not understanding. And then ransomware. Now, ransomware, we'll explore this a little bit further, because you would think, well, why would they target ransomware on smaller companies? And we'll talk about this a little bit later, why the ROI is actually making it lucrative even when you're going for the smaller, not quite as rich companies over the larger, richer companies. And then the vulnerabilities, as I mentioned, there can be the carelessness. Actually, there's data to show that around 80% of the data leaks in the small and medium companies actually come from within through employees, particularly through the use of personal devices. So it's not necessarily intentional, but it's because they're not having the, unlike in large corporations where you get your corporate device, it's been locked down, it's got all the IT department has made sure that you've got all your BitLock or whatever software you need. It's got, and everything is pre-approved before it's loaded on there. A lot of small companies, the employees are going to be using their own personal devices for work and for personal. You can imagine what that opens, the risks and the threats that come from that. And then finally, in the threat exposure, one of the threat exposure is that they just really don't know what security they need and what they should and should be doing. And so the threat exposure becomes a lot bigger there. Okay. So, as you can see, the risk and the threat exposure, we've explored those two. We've seen that both of those have increased. Now let's look at it from the cyber criminals' perspective. Increasingly, SMEs are becoming the low-hanging fruit for cyber criminals. We enjoy on the, as consumers, also as businesses, we enjoy the advantage that technology gives us in our day-to-day business to help us get rid of routine work that used to take us hours. We can now speed it up with AI-powered tools, assistants, you name it. Cyber criminals doing the same thing, utilizing these tools to be able to speed up things that used to take them a long time to pull together. They can do that a lot faster. One example is in order to do a well-orchestrated phishing attempt, it could take from creation and getting the tools off the dark web that you need through to actual execution. It could take anything from 72 hours to maybe a couple of weeks. Now they can pull this together in 5 minutes. The tools all packaged together, a couple of prompts into the right AI tools, and boom, you've got your whole end-to-end, everything that you need to execute. So the cyber criminals now can afford to be able to target those that may only have like little incremental return, but because their investment in actually pulling together the attack was small, they can go for those lower hanging ones. The second thing is the reason it's a lower hanging fruit is that because as I explained before, that risk exposure, the small, medium enterprises, they are more and more digitally connected, but they're not really aware of what they're doing, and they're leaving open holes that make it easier for those that do know what they're doing to take advantage of that. Poorly patched, not up to date, credentials that are very easy to find out and to manipulated in order to get unauthorized access into systems. And that is a problem from this last statement here, because they've realized that as more and more, especially in Japan, with that, if you remember what we discussed about the hub and specialized spoke, or just like that reliance on these supply chains, once they can get in through that weak link, they can get in and then target those more lucrative, larger opportunities upstream. And it's actually happening. I'm sure several of you have heard about these already in the newspaper, about Asahi breweries. They had to almost halt production, and several places, restaurants, bars, convenience stores were running out of beer. And it was originally reported in the media as an attack on Asahi breweries. It wasn't actually an attack on the breweries. What it was, and this is a quote here from a senior executive in the company, saying it was a sophisticated and clever cyber attack beyond anything the company had expected. Why hadn't they expected it? Well, actually, it didn't originate from within there. It originated further upstream with a supplier, a part of their supply chain. In other words, that very sort of weak link that we were talking about. And it was sophisticated because the cyber criminals had taken their time to really monitor and understand the behavior of the places, and had been looking for a long time to see where they could get in. And they tried this with other companies as well. So it wasn't they were particularly trying to get into the Asahi breweries. Think about something that they are trying in different places, because their end goal is disruption and is, bigger the pie as possible. What the cyber experts and the think tanks are assuming is probably where they're trying to go ultimately is where they can cause the most chaos and get the most control. Think about energy. Think about critical infrastructure. So what they're doing with these companies, both with Asahi and Muji, similar thing, downstream on the delivery partner, but it was Muji that had to shut down their online domestic shopping. Huge loss, hit their share price. These sort of attacks we're going to see more and more, and it is not because they're wanting to attack these particular companies. They are trying different ways, and they are learning and learning and learning. So with that, let's look at what Japan is doing right now to try and reverse some of this and take proactive action. The first thing is the regulatory support. So back in 2024, I mentioned that the government actually did a survey and just found the extent of the problem and the risks that they were exposed to with SMEs. Some of the highlights here I've got on the screen here. What came out of that there is some increased budget and increased intentional focus on developing support and guidelines and policies for SMEs. Up until then, the policies had been very general. There'd been a little bit of information, but it wasn't really targeted to how SMEs operate, think, and what they need in order to be able to take the action they need. So they came up with some much simpler ways, really getting it down to the fundamental basics. One of the things they came up with was really focusing on the 5 fundamental things that a company needs to do. For everyone else in the room, these will seem very common sense and basic things, but a lot of small and medium businesses, especially if they're not technical at all, were not doing these. And so we really needed to get them to be doing these most basic things. The second thing is that they updated the guidelines to make them a lot more appropriate for those companies. The next step is they actually went to something what's called the Star 2 level. They've got a Star 1, which as I showed you previously. The Star 2 is where they go through what they call a 5-minute security assessment. I went through this assessment. I've worked in cybersecurity for 20 years. I can tell you this took longer than 5 minutes. It is not a 5-minute assessment. So this led me to think, how many small, medium businesses, I mean, don't get me wrong, the information in here is great. They've put a lot of attention and detail to this. This is really well thought out. But I'm concerned about how many companies are really going to be able to understand this and utilize this. So with that, we turn to other global regulatory that are perhaps a little bit further ahead than Japan, started things a little bit earlier. I just looked at a couple of the five countries, UK and Canada. UK, obviously, because it's where I'm from. They have a program that is more mature than Japan has. The reason I say it's more mature is the government produces the policies and the guidelines of it, but they have a very well thought out scheme with industrial bodies that then cover the consultation, the assessment support. They have cyber experts, and you can do everything from the free version right up to the white glove version to help you execute on this. So they've got that lovely balance of government setting it out, but instead of just throwing it out to the SMEs and say you're on your own, they've also got a whole industry supported scheme that really helps them do that, along with centers. The more you go for, the more qualified you go up on from the essentials up to the higher levels of certification, that then allows you access to, say, bid on government contracts or bid on other systems. So very well thought out. Canada as well, they base it on what's called a community-driven scheme, meaning that they're not expecting every little SME to do everything by themselves, and so they encourage information sharing. They encourage SMEs to get together, and they have initiatives to help that. Japan is looking at these very intently and are starting to adopt these, but are behind and are catching up in these schemes. So that leaves then the private sector. Where can we play to help the Japanese government, to help in what's these problems in Japan, to be able to support the SMEs? Well, in an ideal world, these are the areas that and I spent some time with contacts at IPA and METI to really understand where do they really need help from the private sector. And these were the areas that they came back with. They said the first one, number one, without a doubt, training and awareness. A lot of the SMEs are not even aware of the information the government provides, let alone that they're open up to risk. They're really not aware. The second one is finding ways to help the SMEs understand the importance of and regularly keeping their systems up to date. Same with the malware protection and privacy software, helping them get the right security for their needs. The last two here is something that SMEs are not going to be expected to do by themselves, but that instead the government and particularly private sector on companies that provide solutions to SMEs, making sure that you are developing solutions that are not just for larger enterprises, but you are developing solutions that help small businesses in an affordable and scalable and shareable way to cover that the data backup, responsiveness, and threat research and monitoring as a service, so outsourced in a way that's affordable. All sounds well and good, but there are several challenges in getting that set up. And this is where I want to spend the last few minutes of my time here, really starting to show you just how much opportunity there is here and just how much need there is for the right solutions to fit the problems that we're seeing. These are the challenges that you're facing. Think of a typical small business, even a medium-sized enterprise if they're non-technical. If you don't know what you don't know, how do you know that you need to take action? How can we build on awareness? How can we get them the training that they need in a way and that's suitable for them? Given the fact they've got limited financial resources, given the fact that they have they're less likely to have the in-house expertise to keep things going by themselves. And the other areas that you see here as well. And let's not forget the customer view. These small, medium businesses, these are customers that are thinking, I'm too small to matter, which is not true anymore, as we've explored earlier. I don't have the time and resources. I just need to get something off the shelf, right? All these like mindsets that they've got, how can we as solution providers help change those behaviors, change those mindset shifts? How can we do that? So it's not just about providing solutions, it's really about thinking about the problem and how we can address that problem. So in NGV, we summarize into 4 main areas of problems, if you like, that need solutions. The first one is there's a dire need for solutions to fit SME problems. Some countries are doing this a lot better than others. I've seen some amazing solutions come out of Singapore, UK, lesser extent in the US, but certainly in Australia as well. There really are some amazing solutions where they've really redesigned solutions from scratch to really address SME markets. The second one is about removing the frictions, helping them change their behavior, getting over this idea of we're too small to matter, and really encouraging that behavioral change. The third one is making sure that they're building for resilience. And what I mean by that is not just throwing an off-the-shelf, a solution for them and just leaving them to get on with it, but solutions that really look holistically and build strategically to help them in a long-term overall approach to building a cyber resilience across their end-to-end business. And then the final one, and this came out of several interviews that I did with small business leaders. They were like, Nicola, it's got to be actionable. It's got to be concrete. It's got to tell me what I need to do. And I need to know it's going to show me an output pretty quickly. I'm not going to have the hours in the day. I'm not going to have the attention. I don't have the know-how to be able to learn about this. It's got to get me to action and clear outcomes quickly to what I need. I need to know enough for what I need to know. The rest I'm leaving to you. So these are the 4 areas. And then just in a closing one, I'd like to introduce something that at NGV we're working on right now. We're at the we're not quite ready, unfortunately, to show you the final one there. We're at the prototyping. But what we've done is we've looked specifically at a niche area that's underserved, which is the cyber compliance side. That we have partner companies that are developing the threat intelligence, the threat research, the monitoring for an SME specific environment. So we looked at it and said, well, what's missing? Oh, let's look at the cyber compliance side. There are very few companies doing this. So what we're doing is starting from the ground up, redefining, utilizing IPA's guidelines and METI's guidelines and the STAR 1, STAR 2 approach, taking that but creating it, utilizing technology, yes, some AI, yes, other technologies, to create something that makes it much easier and more intuitive and user-friendly for small businesses to assess, train, and also prove compliance in this area of cyber compliance. Those 5 to-dos and that 5-minute assessment is a core part of what we're building out on there. And then finally, before I open up to questions, we're doing our little part in NGV, but there is so much more opportunity out there. So I just wanted to summarize quickly the takeaways that we spoke about today. The increased risks, opening up the opportunity there. The more governments doing their part, but needing help from the private sector. That desperate need for more collaboration and support. So it's that collaboration and support, not just one-off solution packages. And really emphasize again that opportunity for the right solutions. Deliberately just a blank red space there because I don't know what that looks like today. So our actions then, coming from the solution provider developer side, is really about taking a look and understanding the SME challenges from their perspective. What are the problems that they have? We know what the macro problems are. There's plenty of information there, but let's look at it from walking in their shoes, understanding it from their perspective. How can we build more holistic, strategic solutions that help them end to end, not just a plug and play that would be suitable for larger enterprises but don't work in their systems? And getting it down to that affordable, scalable way that they need to do it, because they don't have the budgets of the big enterprises. They need it in a more shareable way. They need to be part of something bigger. And by doing this, thinking about how you're actually helping the backbone of the whole Japanese economy. 99.7% of the businesses in Japan fall under this category of SMEs. So by working in this and helping to solve and protect and secure these companies and making them more cyber resilient, we are helping the backbone of the whole Japanese economy. And then I would just like to close before I have the questions, say, we are open for the right inquisitive and problem-solving minds to come and join us at NJV, particularly looking for developers to expand and help architect on the solutions. There are plenty of problems out there to solve, and we really want to help solve them. So thank you very much.
So now we move into questions. So if anyone in the audience have a question. Anyone? Okay, maybe I can start with a question. A little bit tough one, but so when we talk about updates, irregular updates, so there are cases like where there is a vulnerability embedded into update.
Yes.
So what would be the best recommendation in this case to avoid this kind of situation, to avoid getting an update that might risk your system?
That is actually a brilliant question, and there's a multi-pronged or several layers to that. First of all, SMEs should not have to be, and particularly small businesses should not have to be responsible or completely responsible for taking to be able to distinguish between or be able to identify rather whether a vulnerability is the right vulnerability and whether there is any possibility of introducing threats through vulnerabilities that could cause more harm than or not. This is where IPA, the Information Technology Promotion Agency of Japan, has a huge role to play. They have been building, they've been doing it for many years, but they're now actually looking at ways they can make it more accessible to SMEs for information and keeping them up to date on exactly what you're describing. When something like that happens, when it is found, then it's up to larger organizations that have more resources to be able to inform and not only inform, but provide them the course of action to correct in the event that something may have been installed or applied that could harm. The second part of that is there's private sector companies that are looking at ways to actually automate and take the burden off that. So in other words, the detection, the evaluation, the remediation, and the prevention, doing this not in a sort of on-prem or a way that, not even on-prem, but specialized solutions that large enterprise have, but actually doing this in a way where you've got a network connection of small, medium businesses that are leaving it to like specialist ones that are able to do that, and then broadcast, if you like, in an automated way, the detection, the remediation, and any other sort of action that needs to be taken around that. So what I'm basically saying in a nutshell is you cannot expect the SMEs to have the technical ability to be able to do any type of detection and remediation, all the usual steps of cybersecurity by themselves. That must be through specialist agencies. What's the problem is how do you automate and simplify that connection so it's more streamlined?
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Hello. Many small businesses are using clouds, right? So they do.
I'm sorry, I can't quite hear you.
Hel- Hello. Uh, Small businesses usually use the clouds. They do deploy their applications into clouds.
Yes.
Do you consult about it? Do you have some people who are experts in this area so they can give some advices how to protect our applications in major cloud providers like in AWS, in how to configure it safely and what to check, what
Yes.
to
Yes.
check first?
There's a double-edged sword to small businesses utilizing cloud solutions. On the one hand, there is the regulatory authorities and, well, obviously the private sector as well, want to encourage small businesses and small, medium enterprises to utilize cloud solutions because you're putting then the burden, the accountability and responsibility on those that are specialized to making sure that those systems are secure. And as long as that, then the regulatory authorities are also holding those solution providers accountable for that. I'm talking about the large, big tech solution providers, right? So it's in their interest to want to make sure that they are making sure that when that they are protecting the assets that they've got of lots of different businesses so that they can keep their business going. The problem arises when, and I've seen this in some of the interviews, they say, oh, well, I'm using Google Workspace or I'm using Microsoft, so therefore I'm okay because Microsoft and Google are taking care of me. But what they're not seeing is that the fringe things that are not associated with that, or they're not understanding the concept of access controls, or they're not configuring their setup correctly. And that is the opportunity for smaller, more boutique solution providers, which is why I keep talking about the holistic and more strategic solutions. The actual core large cybersecurity, you know, the typical solutions you think of, those are already taken care of by the large either cybersecurity companies or tech companies. The pieces that are missing are that, yes, you know, the big tech are doing what they can do to secure assets on there. But if you have got it configured, or for example, you take a simple example, if you haven't toggled that little on to make sure multi-factor authentication is mandated for your employees, you've now opened up a risk. So is the responsibility then on the cloud providers to educate the small businesses on how to set something up? Or is there an area there where there's something a little bit more boutique and more sort of face-to-face, more hands-on, that can help them be aware of their part and their responsibility when they're taking on these third-party solutions? I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
So yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any more time.
Oh, yep, sorry.
Yeah, so like, if there's like any questions online, we can basically forward them to our social media, and we can forward them to Nicola, and she can answer them later. And maybe we can do even a podcast sometime.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Okay, so our next speaker is Georgi, and he's going to tell us about using mathematics to verify software. So please welcome Georgi.
Thank you for bearing with me, despite these technical troubles. We have here like 5-6 toggles. Today, I'm going to be talking about software verification, and basically, can I use the mic? Yeah. I think it'd be very helpful. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. One. Ooh. Okay, no problem. I can yell. 1. Maybe this. No. Super.
Okay, I think you have to really go without mic.
I agree. Okay, try to be louder. Today we're going to be considering the problem of software security from slightly different angle. Basically, what we have heard in the previous talk was more about like external intrusive into the either perimeter, but if software has a bug or hackers can break the logic of the program. It doesn't matter how well you protect your network, you can screw it up. A little bit about myself. My name is Georgi. I've been writing code more than 10 years, maybe around 15 years every day. And what I really hate is fixing bugs. I don't like when people send me like, oh, this thing doesn't work, we need to fix it. And then you fix it and then reiterate and something different, you break something different, and this basically never ends. And I really hate it. But I think especially if you work with in certain sensitive domains like finance, those bugs and mistakes can cost billions. And usually how we guarantee or how we test, verify software works as expected, well, we have the whole spectrum of different techniques with different capabilities and pros and cons. Like, of course, manual testing may be the first thing that comes in mind. So a person, like an end user, mimics behavior and tries to use the software in a way users will use, or in try to break it. Unit testing is like some engineering purpose. Basically, it's about ensuring that functions work as expected. Integration testing is when different systems and components are tested how they work together and if everything is nice and good, smooth. End-to-end testing is very similar, but we run the whole user experience procedure to reproduce higher level behavior. And like fuzzing or property testing is when we use brute force to try to find certain combinations of parameters that make software works not as expected. And if we are lucky and stubborn enough, we can achieve something about 80% of coverage, barely. But it's pretty good, I think, especially for big systems, enterprise systems. Of course, the more specific the piece of software is, the higher this coverage can be. But, even with the 80% coverage, and if you're on the board of the aircraft, is it enough for you to be like satisfied? I'm not sure. Yeah, might be. It depends on how risky you are. If we ask ourselves, what do tests check? And the answer is tests validates that some given function f with a certain input a produces the result b. And this is like a very straightforward approach. In another like simple words, if a function, or if we consider a piece of software as a black box, that's like reacts appropriately on our input. But what is the problem? What is like a fundamental problem that can break the system? Why system fails? Not only because functions are not implemented properly or have implementation bugs, but because of logical misconceptions. And where these logical misconceptions can come from? Well, in the old school software development life cycle, what it looked like that. So a client somewhere published a list of requirements, what system they need, and the business analysis worked together with the client, then delegate information to project manager, and the project manager together software like architects or wherever all it is named with developers, and they produce a product. And this system worked well. However, all these testing techniques were invented before, right? And why? Because each right arrow here from party to party, actually this information transmission augments reality a little bit from party to party. It's like a game of telephone. And this is very behavioral thing for human beings, because different people can read the same sentence in a different way. It depends on on your mood, or coincidentally you choose one or another. And now the problem, I think, became even worse, because what's happening, people, they just break this chain and use AI as a shortcut. You just open Cloud Code, whatever you want, and like, hey, make me a authorization, implement authorization based on OpenAuth or other protocols, OpenSSL, and I will use it. No, of course you will not. You can, but most likely it's not going to work. Instead of a game of telephone, you start playing Russian roulette. And because, sorry, like nobody take responsibility in this situation. AI doesn't have like emotional connection to the job. It doesn't afraid of losing job or anything. So it's like a very risky thing. What do we actually need? We actually need to ensure the code we have does what we want. Not only reacts on the certain input in a certain way, expected way, but like genuinely from the common sense perspective, it does what it should do. So that logically correct code is sound, like a mathematical sound system without internal contradictions or other problems. And formal verification is one of the most advanced techniques that allows to provide the highest possible guarantees about software correctness. And how many people here have heard or use everyday formal verification in their job? Nice, nice. What tools do you use? Do you want to share? Which one? Okay, what's other, maybe, who use Lean or Rock? Nice. Lean is very cool. Okay, then the crash course about what formal verification is. So we need to, on the basic level, we need to know two terms. One is theorem or proposition. It's like a type or type signature for developers. And proof roughly equals to a function where program, term, function, body. Okay, so only two things. Theorem is a type and proof is a function. Okay, crash course is done. So this is the very basic theorem. What is about? It says like if we add the 0 to a natural number, this natural number remains the same, meaning like n plus 0 equals n. And so this type of code is very, resilient, and it's very hard to break. This level of this compiler, this particular code, the piece from Rockproof Assistant, you cannot, convince that your code actually is implemented correctly. Here, is it like a scribbling or is readable? Or I need to explain more here. Okay, if I need to explain more, what's happening here, as I said, we try to prove that if we add 0 to a natural number, the natural number remains the same. We use induction here, meaning like we consider the base case and the common case. The base case n is 0, and if n is 0, then 0 plus 0 equals 0. It's a trivial statement. And if n is not 0 but any other natural number, we can, like in school, simplify this statement and using the fact that this should be n plus 0 now equals n. We can substitute and rewrite this expression with this hypothesis and achieve the desired proof completion. This basically what's underlying logic or foundation here is what's called reflexivity within here. I mean, we needed to be able to tell whether or not two parts on the left and right side of the equality sign are actually equals. And the process of reflexivity goes through the beta, delta, eta, and z reductions that basically granularly, step by step, reduce code. That's why they called reductions to the very similar expression that are at the very low level are not distinguishable and can be compared like strings, literally, actually. Yeah, and why it works? Because the calculus of inductive constructions theory works behind the scenes. So sometimes inductive is missed. So you can Google either calculus of inductive constructions or calculus of constructions. The QR code is there. So calculus of inductive constructions is a language, or it's like a meta language. It can be interpreted and implemented in either logical propositions or in code. And this interesting phenomenon makes it very usable for mathematics being represented in code. So term in our world is like term is everything basically. Constant, propositions, variables, everything. And this common umbrella term includes various sorts, like propositions and sets. Sets can be a number of subsets or variables, constants, or certain definitions, and what is called type I. Type I is a hierarchical structure of embedded into another universe, each of which contains a certain number of terms. And maybe this diagram I prepared is not super representative, but this QR code navigates you to the plain English explanation. So basically what we need to know that this hierarchy is well organized, and believe me, for many years, decades, smart people have been developing it. And the key question is, can we trust Rock interpreter compiler that what it does actually sound? There are no contradictions. And actually, yes. Because simply, as you remember, reductions, they reduce very math-like code to the very literal strings. And by the theory, by definition of Curry-Horvath correspondence, which we already know because functions, the theorems are functions and proofs are function bodies, what we need to do with all that is to type check that types are matched, all constructors are covered in pattern matching, etc. Yeah, so this is a quote from the Software Foundation series, very nice book, or 6 volumes, maybe 7 volumes so far. Highly recommend to read. It might sound very unintuitive or very complex actually, but there are some tools that allow to, not trying to assemble proofs and theorems from the ground up. For instance, I don't know if you can see it well. So here, the spec is very simple for the functions above. Check foo checks if x more than 1, and check bar returns checks if x more than 0. That's not the rocket science, right? And so this can be actually with the specification that checks that these two functions together produces the chain. If we have here an arbitrary x, then we can check foo and check bar. Therefore, x will be, as with this theorem, more than 1, right? Because we can literally skip, because if x more than 1, it's automatically more than 0, right? And the theorem for our spec is we use binary numbers z. It's like n, but also includes negative numbers. And then we just collide everything to this expression which says if x more than 1, percent z means this type. It implies that x more than 0 as well. So this example shows that it's not necessary to write all the time very thorough math, because somebody did it already, and these tools help a lot. And if you ask who use formal verification, well, these guys do. For various reasons. Here, I think it's clear that it's very undesirable. Aircrafts or spaceships, explode, or if AWS authorization has a bug and someone from one enterprise can get access to another enterprise account, it's very, undesirable. Okay. Now, with formal verification, we have one thing that can really be helpful. We need some environment or virtual machine that we verify our programs onto, because it enables very interesting things. if we use a virtual machine and we assume that virtual machine implementation bug-free or strictly follows a VM specification, then it means that we can reason about the code behavior or execution on this virtual machine and be sure that our real execution will be exactly as we have in our theory or in mathematical model. So what is a mathematical model of a virtual machine? Well, it's called mechanization, and mechanization formally, meaning in mathematical terms, describes virtual machine as a finite state machine with the following in the following way. So any virtual machine can be defined as a memory, stack, etc., some small components, and which forms context and union with operations that can be executed on this virtual machine, so that the next state of the virtual machine is a delta reduction from the current state, operation, and the context. And delta also known as a reduction from S to S prime. And mechanization in these terms actually ended up being a formal definition of delta, of reductions for, like a common reduction for all possible operations. So if we have two things, two components, like a virtual machine, well-defined, very nice, as WebAssembly is, and Rock, very mature proof of system, it's been around for several decades and been used by big names. We can achieve very powerful setting. Why WebAssembly is good? Because the instruction set is relatively compact, because it's state-based virtual machine. It's portable, very little resources are required, and perfectly defined formally. This core code leads to WASM specification. And many companies use it, actually. I think in vehicles producers, these like dashboard displays, they sometimes use WASM to render the picture. And like it's everywhere because it's very nice. But we have problem here because no matter what environment we use, I think if it's like tries to pretend to be able to process any arbitrary computation, there are several caveats. Number one, and of course WASM is not exception. So floating point computations is something that leads to non-determinism, right? Because IE 754 standards, there is no particular like strict rule how a hardware works with not a number. Therefore, any implementation that satisfies basic rules can be is acceptable, and host function calls are not under our control. So for WebAssembly, host functions are functions of a web browser or another environment WebAssembly is run on. Non-determinism is not the same as undefined behavior. Non-determinism is actually a enumerable set of all possible legal states or operations a program or software can perform or do, whereas undefined behavior is something illegal, like reading from unimplemented memory in low-level languages. So here, non-determinism, it can be, we have a variety, and any case in this, like item in this variety of all possible cases are okay. Undefined behavior is something like it's broken. So this is how we tackle floating point, not a number case with WebAssembly. So the definition is, so what we want to answer here, so this is proposition. Proposition is not a computational unit, it's not a function, it's more like a predicate for a function or for some other computation. So the job of a predicate is to give an answer like true or false, basically. And here we compare if like two results, computed and actual results, compatible. And the results are compatible either if they're equals according to the Leibniz equality statement, which means that two values are equals if they're constructed identically, and this is a recursive statement should apply to any constructor and subtypes in which can be part of a type. And if they're not, then we have here like an alternative branch with the match and pattern matching. So two floating point numbers have the same not number. They're compatible if both of them are not a number and both of them are canonical numbers. Canonical not numbers. Sorry. Yeah. Crash course what the canonical, non-canonical floating not numbers for floating point standard IE754 is that in Mantissa the first bit actually named as a quiet bit shows whether or not the Mantissa is not a number, and the why I said it's non-deterministic, because here standard says only about the first bit, and there's like canonical, not a number, says that it should be like a first bit and then all zeros. However, arithmetical, not a number, can have first bit, but the rest memory can be dirty. So I mean, it's kind of work for arithmetics because it can be like CPU optimization. You don't need to clear the memory here in Mantis, and you just flip one bit, and here you go. But in ROC or in Proof Assistant, we cannot kind of deal with this. We need very like bitwise comparison all the time. And to be able to work with floating point numbers, we have this proposition that actually helps us to process and to satisfy a type checker with arithmetical not numbers. Yeah, this is so because we have here implication. Yeah, because A is a if we imply that here that A is canonical, which is a more strict, strictly required thing, then we need to. It's okay for us to assume that the premise is also at least canonical because it has more relaxed. Come on. Okay. 1 second. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if I need to explain how to use this. I can really briefly. So basically, why we need it, as I said, because as a virtual machine, you might know, like virtual machine, right? It runs on some physical machine, on the host system that actually, and instructions that virtual machine emits, they're being propagated to the actual hardware, like CPU, to execute. And therefore, we should, if we follow only one standard, then it breaks our portability to any platform. Therefore, we need to convince a type checker that we can deal with, and we use this predicate, as you see, non-compatibility number after the execution with the result. So, like we check if whether canonical or arithmetical mantis is presented, and then we can go along. It sounds complex, and you might ask, like, okay, I can use Claude Code or whatever. Like, there are many solutions out there being built to, deal with formal verification, because there's, marketing is very aggressively tell us that it's possible. However, the problem of this approach is that imagine you have like 5, 10, 20,000 lines of math code, and if somewhere vendor writes something like false implies true, then it, this axiom somewhere burden in a very deep level, well, it means that all your theory is unsound, because if you can, from false, you can imply true, that it means that you can prove anything. Okay, so the final thought is mechanizations. Virtual machines are good because it allows to use formal verification effectively with very clear boundaries, and like cryptography algorithms that are implemented in for these particular environments are very highly reliable, and many other cases, whatever you can imagine. If you want to learn more, there are several links here. For example, this Software Foundation series of books, it's like a university course curriculum for quite extensive time. We recommend to read. Any other links? And thank you. This is the last slide.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it's a very complex topic. So, any questions?
Nice. Yeah.
Thanks. I have a few questions, and they're all about AI.
Okay.
So the first question, if we talk about AI as an LLM system, does it have a deterministic result or undefined behavior?
Okay. I don't think it. Okay. Undefined behavior, for my how I see it, it is a very low-level stuff, which are like very unlikely to happen with AI. You mean AI as a model, right?
For example, an agent system.
Agent system. I think non-determinism is more applicable here, because if it's an agent system, it should be like very, like on a low level, on a protocol or on a network level. High-level concepts, they're usually, I think, well, for me it's a little bit hard to imagine more of non-determinism. And non-determinism is actually the very essential of AI models, because the temperature that you change actually impacts on the how less deterministic the model is. Simply sitting like with the more or less randomness, sit in the initial prompt. And even with this, even if you use like temperature 1, it does not mean it will be deterministic, simply because when you multiply several multidimensional metrics with the precision of 16, like, for example, right? Then what happens is, during this computation, massive computation, the rounding error tends to be accumulating during the time. And it means that every next computation can accumulate an error, and you don't know how, like, what is the next vector multiplication, like what direction it goes to. It can be very, like, the non-determinism is a very basic property of models, AI models.
So is it possible to use formal verification to like test those non-deterministic agent systems?
I haven't heard about this simply because, you know, to apply formal specific verification, you need what is called formal specification. It means that you need to formally define the behavior of a model. And since it's behavioral, non-deterministic by nature, you simply cannot. If you could, it would mean that if you, like, your input prompt is like A, it always returns B, but it's not the case. But what's happening now, like the opposite thing. So people use LLMs to generate code for proof assistance. Yeah, but not vice versa. Like, it's a fundamental problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think we have Mike.
Any questions? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
It's very fascinating. And
Thank you.
yeah, I was thinking, I think, you know, for instance, you know, before there was, you know, that you were talking about, it's, you know, the finite, you know, the state machine. But I thought, you know, is more like, you know, well, finite or, you know, non-deterministic, you know, automaton. So in that sense, you know, I think what level of, you know, the computational model you are focusing on with this, you know, verification? That's my first question.
Okay, so how we consider the finite state machine or automata? I can draw various like deep, I think, example. Maybe it can help with the intuition. So as I wrote this, we need a context, right? So this is where our current state is, right? And we have an operations, and this state is a context of memory, right? And it means that the number of transformations and ways to go to switch equals to the number of operations being applied in the context. And what it means, basically, we need to do pattern matching here, some kind of, right? And to write a very, very long pattern matching, considering all operations, which we, for each operation, here we apply in the context. So this is the very kind of low level. And as it was said earlier a little bit here, because we, in fact, where is that? So it's type checking, right? And we can see here it's nothing but type checking. So for any machine, we need to know all possible transformations for every state. And yeah, it's like it finite, right? Because we have trap in WASM, for example. Trap means like hard stop, like electricity off. And we have unreachable. So, I mean, this graph has exits always. Yeah, I don't know if it answers your question. Why is that? Simply because if we are thinking about an arbitrary visual machine, it should satisfy Turing completeness, right?
Yeah, it should be completeness, and then it should be actually deterministic.
Yes, yes. Otherwise, so if it's not, yeah.
Yeah, and the interesting issue is that, of course, the gentleman talking about, LLM, and then LLM is actually a transformer. Let's say focus on transformer.
Yeah.
Transformer is, I would say it's a Turing machine. Because, you can do, because that is the, at least, the two-layer, the deep learning stuff. So you can prove it that that is. So, but in that sense, and then also it is actually gives you that's Turing machine. But the input, the prompt input, and then output is actually it's a stochastic,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So in that sense, it's coming from the stochastic stuff. Probably that gentleman is talking about how we prove it. It's okay or not.
Yeah, so our question is, if we imagine a Turing machine, right? So Turing machine is actually, it's kind of an automata, right?
Yeah, automata,
Which
yeah.
Here's like operation 1 and operation n. And this and you have a memory. Exactly, this is the same thing actually, so
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
Turing machine. And our next step is actually we take one operation, transforms memory. Okay, this is our state. And because of Hall's theorem, actually, we cannot, it's impossible to prove that the arbitrary algorithm is finite. Hall's on the Turing completeness, right? Because
Yeah, you can combine
loops, like you can
yeah.
can do whatever you want, right? That's why it's Turing complete. Yeah. So here, how I answered on the question about models, I was thinking about like if we project like it's like many dimensional matrices, right? And what we do, we multiply matrices all the time. And because these matrices are represented as floating point numbers, right? I think fundamentally, the higher the arity is, and the higher our precision is, I think the probability of rounding errors grows to some, well correlated. Like somewhere here on the 9th position, something can happen. But because of number of these multiplications, this rounding error can grow, and it makes like either we need to enumerate all possible states, which is impossible practically, right? Because of because you need to consider in this case 64 bits power number of parameters in each computation, which is practically impossible, right? So we need to somehow find a good boundary for what we can reason about. In our case, what we use Turing machine, which has exits like trap and unreachable, and of course, I mean it's like what EVM did. We track operations.
So that means basically you are putting some of the the condition of the stop.
Yes,
okay.
It's like gas or fuel or well, we need somehow in order to overcome Hall's theorem, we need to provide some number which we can track. We can reduce to track how many steps we did. So it's called a structural recursion, for example. So in order not to fall into infinite recursion, its algorithm or principle of structural recursions is used is when if you do a recursion call, and inside you call f, right? So you need to have some parameter like n here which you must explicitly reduce inside the function call in order to be able to continue. So it's like kind of guardrail for recursion. And this guardrail is used in blockchain, so people do not explode it with infinite loops. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool.
We don't have any more time for questions.
Sorry.
This will be the last question.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and once again, thank you to Georgi.
Thank you.
So, okay, we are starting now with our next speaker. So, Aditya is going to be the first speaker from OpenSSL, and we are going to talk about what OpenSSL is doing and about post-quantum cryptography.
Yeah.
Okay, please start.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And hello, everyone. I am Aditya Kuranga. It's nice to see you all. And today we are going to talk about one of the most important topic these days, post-quantum cryptography. So the title is Why Post-Quantum Cryptography, PQC, is critical for digital security today. Now, before I start, I want to know how many of you guys are aware about this term PQC, or maybe you have heard it a couple of times before. Okay, one. That's good. And yeah, that's me, Aditya Kuranga. And basically, I am the Technical Advisory Committee representative for individuals at OpenSSL Corporation. OpenSSL is, as you guys know, is an open source library that provides cryptographic tools as well as the TLS implementation. Now, I wanted to create a dedicated slide on my introduction, and I did try to make it, but I got a bit lazy within the process, so I had to ditch that slide. But anyways, as you know, I'm the technical advisory representative for OpenSSL Corporation, and I also work as a principal security architect in a company called PQ Station, which is based out of Singapore. And I also own a non-profitable organization in India that is called NGCore Foundation. Now, my work in PQC started 5 years back when I was doing some college thesis on PQC. And apart from that, I've played a various role in my life. I used to do teaching as well. You know, one of my childhood dream was to, when I was in kindergarten, my childhood dream was to marry a girl who used to stay like in a nearby area. Then my plans got changed. I wanted to become dancer. Then I wanted to become a chess player, and then I ended up with PQC. So I don't know how I ended up here. So anyways, before I start, I would like to start with the mission of OpenSSL, basically what vision we have. So we believe everyone should have access to security and privacy tools, whoever they are, wherever they are, or whatever their personal beliefs are, as a fundamental human right. And yeah, so basically PQC, before talking about PQC, we need to set the background. Why do we even need PQC? So there are some, a lot of people have been working in quantum computing for decades now, and recently it got the spotlight because of the threats that it's going to bring up with the recent advancement. So some of the quantum computing advancements you guys might have heard about is like the one is from the Google, that is quantum ecos. So Google has developed a quantum chip called Willow, and they did like one of the first ever algorithm that was verifiable by quantum computing, and it was like 13,000 times faster than the latest supercomputers these days, right? And then Microsoft developed Majorana 1 chip. It's also one of the biggest achievement in quantum computing area. And then IBM recently came up with Nighthawk. It's considered to be the strongest quantum computer so far. And then within Japan, now Japan backs quantum startups. I think it invested something like 50 billion yen to do the quantum computing stuff. And then recently, you might have heard about some collaboration between Fujitsu and Riken regarding the fully domestically produced quantum computers. And interesting enough, day before yesterday, I was in event in India. So it's called an AI summit, and in the booth of Fujitsu, I saw this dummy quantum computer that they brought. So the thing is, like, now Japan also is doing a lot of stuff when it comes to quantum computer. Earlier it was mostly into like IBM, Google, and different countries were investing a lot. but now Fujitsu is doing a lot of good stuff, so it's good to know. Now these are all fancy things that are being done in quantum computing area, like they run on qubits, not the simple bits, not 0 and 1, it's like both 0 and 1 at the same time. So the computing becomes much faster, because now we are not going like 1, 2, 4, 6, 2 to the power. Now we're not going like 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, right? Now we are going 2 to the power 0, 1, 4, 8, 16. So it's going into 2 to the power n process. Yes. Now why post-quantum cryptography? So quantum computer brings with a lot of advancements, like in areas of areas which need very high computation, fast computation, and it's like now in the medical area also the quantum computer will bring a lot of good stuff, you know. Now, okay, we understand that quantum computers have a lot of advantages, and it will do even much better when it comes to computing as in general. But quantum computers, since the computation is really faster, it has a threat called quantum threats, which says that it is going to break the current security. Like our internet depends on digital security, cryptographic algorithms, security protocols. Now all those things will be compromised if we bring up like a very strong quantum computer, right? So just for the set the base and introduce about PQC, what basically it does is, for example, you have Alice and Bob, they are sitting over internet, and you know they are communicating, and this is what everyone does, sitting over the internet, communicating, sending messages. Now these messages could be like very critical, very important. Now, but we don't care, because we know the security, that network security, the protocols that we are using is completely secure. But it was I mean it was supposed to be that way until this quantum computing and quantum attacks, idea of this quantum attacks come into the picture. Now what we know is like all the communication that we are doing over the internet securely is secured by public key cryptography. So public key cryptography is like you using public key, private key, you are encrypting, decrypting, right? Those sort of stuff. Now the thing is, now all these messages are secure because they are going in an encrypted format. So if someone else wants to look into the communication that is going on between Alice and Bob, it will be like a non readable form. It will be like random bits that you can't really identify what actually they are talking about, right? So this is all completely secure using the public key cryptography. Now let us suppose we bring a quantum computer, and it's just not a simple quantum computer, it's a very strong quantum computer that we call cryptographically relevant quantum computer, sometimes also known by the name CRQC. Now quantum computing advancements are being done, but it's not still in the stage that it can break the algorithm, the public key cryptography that we are using right now. But we are assuming that later in, like let's say in 5 years, 10 years, 6, 7 years, whatever, quantum computer will come which is cryptographically relevant. Now this quantum computer can actually affect the security, the cryptography that we are using, right? And using this CRQC, what will happen is the data, the communication that was going in was done in a encrypted format, this will be compromised, right? So all the text that you are sending, all the critical information that you are sending from point A to point B, those will all be decrypted using a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. So that answers the question, why post-quantum cryptography? And it's just not like a simple message going on between Alice and Bob. We use our public key cryptography in everywhere, whether it's your protocols like TLS, VPN, SSH, public key infrastructure, SMIME, OAuth, even for the authorization part, feeder 2, etc. All these protocols or frameworks uses public key cryptography throughout the whole process. Now the attack vector, the blast radius is much more higher than we are just saying, okay, just a single communication, that much will be affected. It's just the tip of the iceberg. All these network protocols that we are using in our day-to-day life, these all will be compromised somehow, right? And you guys know, if I zoom in a bit, if you guys can look into this, you might notice some terms like RSA, elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman. So these are like the security cryptography that our internet is widely depends on. So these algorithms are used like throughout everywhere. Now what you can see is like these transition part, these algorithms like RSA, they will be deprecated out after 2030 and completely disallowed by 2035. And this is from the document from FIPS and NIST. And we all know, like in cybersecurity, in cryptographic world, we follow NIST widely, like every time. So as you can see, these algorithms, these classical algorithms will be deprecated, disallowed by 2030 and 2035. So that means the transition that we need to do for newer algorithms is right now. The time is right now. This time frame is very critical, because you know like the earlier transition from SHA-1 to SHA-2, SHA-3, it took 25 years, and it was it took a lot. It took us comparatively larger time to do this transition. Now, why I am showing this? Just to get you notified about what actually is going on in this cybersecurity world or cryptographic world these days. And now, what is post-quantum cryptography? Okay, now we have realized why we need post-quantum cryptography, because all the algorithms that we are using right now, the public key cryptography, will be deprecated and disallowed in few years. Now, what actually is post-quantum cryptography? So PQC is like the new set of cryptographic algorithms that are designed to secure digital systems against future and powerful quantum computers. So all that threat that we talked about, all the algorithms that we said are now not that strong enough to be secure against the quantum attacks. So for that reason, now we need PQC, post-quantum cryptography. And there was a whole process of identifying what these cryptographic algorithms are, and it started with like several algorithms, and we still say, okay, we have a list of 7 to 10 algorithms that we say, okay, these are quantum proof, quantum secure, but it's like, it's not the thing that if I say it's quantum safe, it will be quantum safe. We need some standardization, we need some specifications. So now FIPS, you guys might know about FIPS. These are the standardized body from NIST that provides the cryptographic algorithms, all the standards regarding cryptography and cybersecurity. Now FIPS came up with 3 algorithms that are now standardized according to NIST. These are FIPS 203, 204 and 205. These are just a number, and the algorithm name is MLChem, MLDSA and SLSDSA. So FIPS 203 talks about MLChem, FIPS 204 talks about MLDSA, FIPS 205 talks about SLSDSA. So these are the So these are the new algorithms, these quantum safe algorithms. These are the standardized post-quantum cryptographic algorithms out of several other lists that we say, okay, these are the algorithms that are quantum safe. But now the standardized body and the industry are adopting these 3 ones, MLChem, MLDSA and SLSDSA. Right? And please remember those terms, MLChem, MLDSA, SLSDSA, because throughout this whole presentation we will be talking about those terms like quite a while, okay, quite so many times. We will take reference of those terms. Now the thing is, you might argue with me that, okay, as I said, you will just repeat my words, that cryptographically relevant quantum computers are still not there. Then why do we even need to care about post-quantum cryptography? Let's say if I say it will take 2035, 2040 to have a very scalable quantum computers that can break the current algorithms. But the problem is not that. The bigger problem is harvest now, decrypt later. Let's say we have someone is collecting our data and it's in encrypted format, so we don't worry, okay, if someone is collecting this data, then let it be, it's all in encrypted format, nobody is going to take any, nobody is going to compromise whatever they collect, nobody is going to take advantage of the collected encrypted data. But let us say a quantum computer is available later in the future, okay, let's say 2035. Now what that quantum computer can do is, it can decrypt all the encrypted data that was collected as of now. And this is not just my thinking, the encrypted data is actually being collected in so many countries. A lot of people, their dedicated job is to do this only, to collect the encrypted data. Now all those bunch of chunks of encrypted data is there, and if in future quantum computer is available, all that data that was collected will be decrypted. Now these are not simple text conversation, let's say some military information, the communication that they are doing over the secure channel, those are being collected. Let's say some banking, finance information, transaction information, all that data in encrypted format is collected. Now all that will be decrypted. So what can we do now? The best thing we can do now, by the way, all these data will be decrypted. And let us say the data is still there, and what we will do now is we will adapt PQC right today, right after this talk in 2026, right? Now what changes will it bring with this adapting PQC today is, the data from this point right after 2026, all that data will be protected even when there is a quantum computer, right? Even if this data is encrypted using PQC today, the data right after this point will be protected no matter how strong quantum computer you brings in. And yeah, so all this data from this time will be secured now. And I'm really sorry to say that the data that is lost here will be decrypted. But the good thing is, after this point, the the radius of data being decrypting is much lesser than as compared to the first case, right? Now this is, so you might have right now you might have got the idea of why adapting PQC from this point is important, right? Now this is just not like a thesis, it's actually being widely discussed and widely adopted throughout the world, and some of the initiatives that are being taken right now or have been taken before are like this. So all the major countries are now working on this post-quantum migration stuff, like replacing those classical algorithms that we are using right now with the newer set of algorithms that are the PQC, post-quantum cryptography algorithms. So you can see some countries name like Australia, they have post-quantum initiatives, and they are saying that they want the transition of this PQC transition by 2028, and they want all their system to be fully migrated to PQC by 2030. You know, they are like, I think they are really brave to come up with this timeline, but it's going to be very tough, I think. And yeah, so and Canada has also came up with the CCCS guidelines, and they say by 2026 we need to prepare, by 2031 we need to start the transition, and by 2035 we need to have full transition to PQC. So all the area in which we are using security protocols, classical cryptography, that needs to be migrated with the newer post-quantum cryptographic algorithms. And China has come up with the NGCCC initiative, where they are trying to bring up their own PQC, own homegrown developed PQC algorithms. So these are all the timelines. In major of the cases, you can see 2030, 2035. So just to collect all this data, I think by 2030 and 2035, you need to have like full PQC migration. And since we are in Japan right now, so Japan has come up with this CryptReg guidelines, in which they have not told about like a specific timeline as of now, but they are saying, okay, we need to start planning from 2025. And actually the work is being done because in Cryptric, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, Cryptric, they have a PQC working group which is majorly focusing on these stuff. Right? And Singapore is working on CCA guidelines, and a lot of funds are being invested, are going for these initiatives. And you can see there is terms like QKD. QKD is another technology in which you use quantum computing devices to save the to have a secure channel, but that is, I think, not going to be widely accepted as of now. So in major of the cases, we are going to transition with PQC, post quantum cryptography, right? And once again, see the timeline 2030, 2035. In order to reach the timeline, we should have started from like 2-3 years ago, and but still, yeah, I think if as soon as you start this transition, it will be good. Cool. And you guys remember there was a list of security protocols that I mentioned, right? So in all that cases, PQC migration is being done, and in some cases this migration is already been done, and one of those protocol is TLS. In the various example, real life example, one of the quickest migration was that was seen with any security protocol was TLS, transport layer security. For example, some proofs are like AWS, KMS, certificate manager, and the AWS CloudFront. It's like a CDN. They have already integrated this MLCAM, post quantum cryptographic algorithm. Kubernetes, which is widely used, is now by default using post quantum cryptography between the pod to pod connection or between the control plane connection. Sorry, not for the pod to pod connection, but at least for the control connection. If you use Kubernetes 1.33, by default you can see it is using MLCAM. And Akamai in their CDN, they have PQC by default, like hybrid PQC. And this is this is the screenshot taken from one of the blogs from Cloudflare, in which they say like now 51.1% of their HTTPS traffic is now secured with post quantum cryptographic algorithm. So this is not just an idea. A lot of work by these large businesses has already been done. And the idea is like even if there's so much adaptability, a lot of CISOs, a lot of security architects, engineers still are not aware about this quantum attacks and PQC, post quantum cryptography, right? And this was part of the reason why OpenSSL, me and Paul came here to bring this idea of PQC into the audience in Japan, and hopefully we see more like strong timelines from the Japan government regarding the PQC migration. So TLS was one of the I think one of the greatest example of PQC transition. And since we are here to represent OpenSSL, OpenSSL 3.5 now supports PQC, post quantum cryptography algorithm, like same MLCAM, MLDSA, and SLSDSA by default. So if you are using OpenSSL, which I think everyone uses, whether they are aware or not aware about it, but everyone uses OpenSSL. And if you're using a newer version of OpenSSL, let's say 3.5 and greater than 3.5, you will by default use MLCAM in any of your TLS connection. So before that, for example, if I head to terminal, just to show you guys how OpenSSL is using. By the way, if you have any laptop, you can also run this command, OpenSSL version, and you can see the OpenSSL version that I'm using is 3.5.25, and from the slides you can see from 3.5 and the release greater than 3.5 by default uses post quantum cryptographic algorithms. So let us say if I try before trying a connection with any of the website, or for example, let's see what algorithms does OpenSSL have. So these are the CAM algorithms. These are key encapsulation mechanisms, and you can see MLCAM. MLCAM is there. So for your key encapsulation mechanism, for TLS, let's say you do the key exchanges, right? For that, for now we were using RSA elliptic curve cryptography. Now we will use MLCAM. And this is just for the key exchange. For now, let's say for signatures and certificates, we once again use RSA and elliptic curve. Now for those cases, people will use signature algorithms. So these are a bunch of signature algorithms that you can use, and if you focus here, you can see SLS DSA is also there. And if I try to find MLDSA, yes, you can see MLDSA is also there along with these many algorithm supports. Right. Now let us try to make a TLS connection from with any web server, let's say any websites that you usually visit. For example, there is a website called example.com. So we will try to do this handshake, TLS handshake, try to build up the TLS connection with this website, and for that we will using OpenSLS client. It's just like a command line utility that you use. And if I try to make a TLS connection, you can see these are the negotiations. This is your negotiated TLS 1.3 group. It is using X25519 MLCAM 768. As of now, that was not the case since I'm using OpenSL 3.5. This is MLCAM 768. Now you might ask, okay, I was talking about MLCAM 768, why this X25519 is still there? By the way, X25519 is a classical cryptography still, but you know, like now some people won't be happy, won't be very much happy with the directly transitioning, like completely transitioning to PQC. So they still need like both the security of the algorithms that you are still using, as of now, and the future set of algorithms. So we are using in a hybrid mode, using classical cryptography as well as the newer PQC cryptography algorithms. So we are using X25519 along with MLCAM 768, and this is by default. So if your web server, if you're providing any of the services to your customers, for the TLS connection it does not uses MLCAM 768, then the answer is you are not quantum safe. All the data that is being sent from client to your application services that we are providing to the customers is not quantum safe, which is not a good idea. So, and this is command line utility. If you simply want to go to your web browser, for instance, let's say if I just go here and if I try to access any other website, for example, Luminari Conference, this is the conference page, and if you just do right click, you go to the inspect section, and under this privacy and security section, you can see it says it is using X25519 MLCAM 768. So it's really good that Luminari, anyone who visits Luminari websites is quantum safe. Cool. Now give me some more example websites of your company. Give me a few more examples. For example, I mean, there is GitHub.com. I think still does not use post-quantum cryptography. Yeah, you can see even though it uses TLS 1.3, but it's still relying on X25519, which is not quantum safe, right? And let's say OpenSL.org. I think it should be quantum safe, but it will be. Let's say if it's not quantum safe, then I think it's not going to be good for our image. No worries. Anyways, still see. So OpenSL.org is not quantum safe, but still, I think the website, the server that is running OpenSL.org, even though OpenSL 3.5 has quantum safe algorithms, the server which is on which this public interface is running on, it's not using, I think, OpenSL 3.5, and let's open any Japan government or any university, let's say University of Tokyo. Then it's quantum safe. It's good, and I don't know whether Japan government. So yeah, so it's also quantum safe. Now give me a few more examples just to find some more example of websites which are not using PQC. Facebook.com. I think I might have logged in Facebook, so I should not do this. But yeah, Nicholas, what's your website? Yeah, sorry, what's your name?
Inference-org.
Spell it out for me.
Inference.
INFERENCE.
Yes. Hyphen
LANG.
language.
Lang.
.org.
Good. It's quantum safe.
I think because what's the program name? Search.
Maybe you might be using certificates from Let's Encrypt maybe.
No,
Yeah.
I forgot the name of the. I mean the tool that we use to generate certificates. It might by default use it, right?
Yes. Let's Encrypt. About what? Can you spell it out for me?
Yeah.
KR EM LIN .ru. Okay.
Because in Russia, I think there is different set of
It's not even. It does not even have certificates, I think.
The thing is, like, there is a special set of like certifications that is specific for Russian
Yeah.
website.
Ah, okay. But I think by default it should have open.
something like Chipovnik, Krыжовnik, some different algorithms. But maybe not on this website.
I think it's having some issue. Let's say University of Tokyo. We did it already, right? So yeah, I think University of Tokyo, the condition is even worse because they are still relying on TLS 1.2, and TLS 1.2, like, you can't even integrate PQC with that. So it's like two things for them. First, they need to migrate to TLS 1.3 and to the version of some, if they are using some library like OpenSL, then to a version that is greater than 3.5 or equal to 3.5.
Actually, like, can we check KO University?
KL University?
KO, KEIO University.
So yeah, I think they're using MLChem
Okay.
768. So good for them that they are quantum safe. Oh, I haven't opened it yet. Okay. Okay, they are not on quantum safe. Yes.
Yeah, so I need to inform them about this.
Okay, yeah. So these were just for, and these are like the public facing interface, right, which you can publicly access. Now within your whole infrastructure, within your different products, now there are internal components also. There will be load balancer, there will be a certificate authority, there will be API gateway. Now within all those things, we are still relying on quantum safe. We're still relying on classical cryptography. So that is going to be a much more than what exactly that I showed. Those are like the public interface services, right? And another term that is that has become very famous in cryptographic world and PQC world is crypto agility. The idea is like, let's say if we want to migrate from one algorithm to other algorithm, how flexibly can we migrate to? Otherwise, if you have done like a manual cryptographic implementation, there are some legacy systems. In order for them to migrate to PQC, the whole application needs to be changed. So it's a very hectic task, and in some cases, from my experience in legacy systems, it's not even possible to migrate it to PQC. So in that case, what we need is like a gateway, proxy servers in between. But the definition of crypto agility differs from like company to company, different use cases to use cases. What my idea of crypto agility is like, again, transitioning to classical cryptography to post-quantum cryptography or to any other algorithms flexibly without changing a lot of things in the applications. Because right now, these days, what happens is like our cryptography is coupled with the applications. So your application is somehow managing the cryptography. It says in some cases there are manual implementations. In that cases, the transitioning, as I said, whole application needs to be changed, multiple interfaces needs to be changed, multiple API needs to be changed. So now industry is coming up with the idea of crypto agility, where they say like, now you need to decouple your cryptography from the application completely. If not completely, now then in such a way that, let's say if future migrations needs to be done, then you don't need to change the application. So now they are saying, okay, and one more thing is, we need to create policies. Let me check the time again. Okay, we still have time. The idea is now we need to create policies. Earlier what we used to do, okay, we simply say in the application, hey, run this cryptographic algorithm. Then we change to, okay, now we will have a configuration file from where we will say, select this algorithm, select this algorithm. Now what we are saying is all this security and cryptography needs to be done using policies. Now not even configuration files, we need policies. So what we are saying, we need a set of policies that will manage the whole cryptography in your infrastructure, services, products, applications, and those will be done in a cryptographic layer or a policy enforcement layer. So we are decoupling the cryptography from application layer to another cryptographic layer that will be managed using some policies that we set, right? And for that, we have to do a lot of things. We have to use cryptographic libraries is just one thing. So we need to use now cryptographic library instead of doing the cryptographic implementation. And even if we use cryptographic library, we need to do it in a separate layer from the applications, because like, to be harsh, like application developers are cryptographically really dumb. They don't know like which algorithm is best suited, what is going on in the cryptographic world. What they know is encrypt, decrypt, sign, verify, that's it. And I think that should be enough for them. Now the security, the cryptographic should be managed by the security team, the CISOs. And I know like a lot of companies do not even have a cryptographic team, but they have some security architects of security engineers that now need to take care of these cryptographic. Let's say if it's like a business sensitive thing, then CISO should say, okay, for the business sensitive critical business services, we will use this algorithm. Application developers need to like only know about encrypt, decrypt, sign and verify. For different use cases, we will have this set of algorithms. So all that things needs to be done on a cryptographic layer. So this is the idea of crypto agility. And that's pretty much it. OpenSL, since you know open source work through a strong community, so OpenSL community is there, which last year had like 346 members from different domains, academics, individuals, large businesses, small businesses, and throughout through this collaboration, we have the OpenSL has progressed a lot throughout these years, and this is like a Lumio page, everyone can join. So I request you to use this QR to join the OpenSL community. So even if, as I said, even if you say we don't use OpenSL, the reality is you do use OpenSSL. So any technical direction that you want OpenSSL to head to, what is your use cases, what features you would like to bring into the OpenSSL library, what is your feedback, what problem are you facing, all those things can be done flexibly through our OpenSSL community. So I request everyone, and we have some swags here. So after this talk, please come to that last desk and take some OpenSSL swags. And be a part of OpenSSL conference. So every year OpenSSL hosts OpenSSL conference. So this year will be again in Prague. Last year it was October some date in the same venue, Prague. So please book the dates for October 13 to 15, and an official announcement will come soon. So stay tuned. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Any
So yeah, we
feedback?
have time for questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for presentation. I have a question. Do you anticipate that like in next few years there will be a new quantum computing algorithm that could break, for example, that ML, KAM, or other two?
Yeah, so right now the industry is most feared about two algorithms. One is Shor algorithm. So Shor algorithm is like it was discussed like way decades ago, but the problem with Shor's algorithm was a classical computer was not efficient enough to actually execute that algorithm. So as I said, quantum computers are like really strong. Computation power is too much high. They are doing exponentially work. So Shor's algorithm is best suited for the quantum computers. So if a quantum computer is becomes this much stable and scalable that it actually utilizes Shor's algorithm, then these algorithms is going to be broken soon. And there is another algorithm, it's a Grover's algorithm. It's a brute force one. It focuses more on the symmetric encryption, but symmetric encryption, for example, AES, is I think secure enough. The only transition with symmetric encryption is you need to increase the key sizes. Let's say if you're using AES 128, go shift to AES 256, but I think AES 128 is still strong enough. Yeah.
So do you think there will be new quantum computing algorithms?
Yeah, I think there is a very good scope of that. Yeah, yeah. If the algorithm is, let's say, even better than Shor's algorithm, then we are like in a big trouble. So I think there will be definitely more algorithms like that, but the only known algorithm right now is the Shor algorithm and Grover algorithm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions?
First question is about AWS or some other cloud provider. If they already allow us to use PQC,
Yes.
the question is, what if I enable it on my load balancer? So it will be TLS with post-quantum, but clients are not post-quantum. So will it fall back to RSA?
Yeah, very good questions. That's part of why we use hybrid MLChem. So you see, like with MLChem 768, there was always X25519 attached with it. So by default, it will go try to PQC and shake. And if let's say your client does not even support it, or even let's say different server does not support it, then it will fall back to the classical algorithms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Second one is about the Shor algorithm. So can you take two prime numbers, multiply it, and using Shor algorithm break it?
Yeah, I think the part of the Shor
I mean,
algorithm.
can you show us how to break?
Not at the moment.
How to factorize?
Not at the moment. But if you yeah. But if you contact with me with someone from Fujitsu, so maybe we can try, because they have quantum computers. So we'll see. But there are a lot of resources. If you actually want to see how Shor's algorithm work, then there are a lot of good resources that you can definitely look into.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe one question from me. When you develop the standards and you actually test them, so what do you actually use to see if the standards actually matches is a PQC standard.
Yeah,
So basically, like I'm just asking, like if there's like any quantum computing resources you're using, or you're actually using a simulator of quantum computer.
So actually there are some companies who try to simulate these attacks, but I think it's not quite there to actually test because we don't have like quantum computers. But the thing that makes it secure is the mathematics that it depends on, MLChem, MLDSA. It uses a group of lattices. So it is considered that these multidimensional lattices are secure even against the quantum attacks. There are mathematical proofs. If you go to the standardization, you can see. Now, a lot of people are implementing PQC algorithm. Now, how to actually say these are actually the exact implementation? Then for that, the NIST provides, the standardized body provides some test vectors, ACVP vectors. So if your implementation passes all those test vectors, then we can say, okay, yeah, your PQC implementation is stable enough. But the quantum simulation part is still not there, although some companies are trying to do it. But we are still saying, okay, the mathematics that underlying mathematics that we are using is secure against quantum attacks.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I've taken too much time.
How much time do I have?
I think you have
I don't talk.
20 minutes. Yeah.
20 minutes.
4 minutes to go. I need to talk in 4 minutes. So where's my
Thanks. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like yeah, we can actually go a little bit over time, and we just yeah.
do I need to what's this here? Can I just hold this? Can I just hold this?
Yeah. You
Is
can
something
hold
like
this.
this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
It's
Turn
You
on.
can put it on your coat if you want. It's still going to detect the sound.
Great.
Yeah. Now it's on.
Okay, okay, thank you. So the time is running up, so I need to hurry. So I'm Paul Yang from the Open Source Corporation Technical Advisory Committee, and I'm also a committer of the Open Source project. So today my topic is all about AI and something like data security, especially for the technical we intend to use to protect the data in use. So this is a very brief bio of myself. I started to contribute the code to open source since 2017, which is almost 9 years ago. So and I later was invited to be a committer in 2018. And last year I was elected as a tech member together with Edita to serve as a tech member in the Open Source Corporation. So for the work experiences, that was I started my career 17 years ago when I was in a company called Newsoft, building conventional cybersecurity appliances like firewalls, UTMs. And later I joined Alibaba, an affiliated company for almost 10 years there in Alibaba Cloud Computing and Alipay. And last year I resigned from Alipay and joined Lenovo. And at Lenovo, my daily job is building a privacy computing solution into Lenovo's private cloud solution. And I now mainly focused on the confidential computing. For the personal interest, the biggest personal interest of mine is reading Japanese manga. And the second one is learning the Japanese language while drinking Japanese beers. And this is AI generated picture depicting all the things. What's your favorite manga? That would be Doraemon. Yes. So let's back to topic. So what's the most important thing in AI era? And from my opinion, is the data, because data is the fuel, foundation, and feedback loop of the modern AI systems. So you can consider maybe the model itself is very important and complicated, but without any high quality data, you can't train a very good model. And for the inference phase, that means when you are using the model for the inference things, you also need a lot of high quality data for the as the input of the RLM, the large language model. So data becomes more and more imperative. So since data is very important in AI era, so data security is also becomes more important. So in details, what to protect, this is an illustration of an AI, a typical AI inference process. As you can see there on the left of this page, that's Google Gemini. If you want to use Google Gemini to ask some questions, so what will happen behind the scene? So firstly, the question you have inputted would be encrypted at the you device. For instance, on your mobile phone, on your PC or tablet. And that encrypted data will be transit into the server of Gemini. Like, the server maybe sits on the cloud, right? A cloud is consisted of several different data centers there. And after the encrypted data arrives at the cloud, it will be decrypted. So, and turn back into the plain text. So, and then the plain text will be feed into the RLM on GPUs for the inference process. So let's abstract this a little. So here is the abstraction view of the other things happened when you're doing AI inference there. So it's called a life cycle of data. So in transit, data in transit and data at rest, they are well treated during the past several, maybe 30 or 40 years there. We can use technologies like TLS or the other secure network protocols to protect data in transit. And we can use many systematic encryption algorithms like AES or something like that to encrypt all the data on the disk or in the database. But the missing piece is when we are using the data. If we want to use the data, we need to turn the data from the encrypted status back into the unencrypted status. So here will become the weakest point of the whole chain here. So computational computing is aimed to resolve that kind of problem. So what's computational computing? Well, computational computing is an emerging technology, and Gartner has already defined the computational computing as one of the top 10 technology, the trans technology in 2026. And more interesting thing is computational computing is not categorized into the security technology, but computational computing is categorized into the architecture. So it should be the fundamental of the IIT solution. So officially, very formally definition of confidential computing is that it's a technology that protects the data while it's being processed by running it inside a secure, isolated, hardware-based environment. And this hardware-based environment, we call it TEE. It's a trusted execution environment, and usually it's a feature of GPU or CPU. So typically, when we're talking about confidential computing, the most important part of confidential computing is we need to create an enclave on the cloud. And when user send the data from his devices to the cloud provider, the cloud service provider like AWS or Google GCP, they cannot see the data inside. So that's the whole idea for confidential computing. How to use confidential computing? The most simple way is just migrate your application from ordinary normal containers and VMs to the confidential containers or confidential VMs. That's the server side. So if you are doing this, your application will not be changed. You don't need to change to update your application to adapt the TEE environment there. But on the device side, the things will be a little complicated. Usually you need to have some modification to applications, thus to use some technology provided by the CPU like ARM Trust Zone also to make your application more secure. Okay. So what happened? So it's freezing. Oops. Okay, so let's just summarize a bit for traditional computing and confidential computing. So from several aspects, for the data at rest, both traditional computing and confidential computing, they can do the encryption, and which is the same for data in transit. But for data in use, in traditional computing, the data will be exposed during processing. But confidential computing, by leveraging the ability of TEE, so the data will be protected inside the secure enclave. And for the visibility of data, the cloud provider, cloud service provider, and the admins and the other people can see your data. But for confidential computing, it's not possible for the service provider to access your private data there. The typical use cases for traditional computing is just the general computing things. Any application you want to run on a cloud environment, you just create a very normal virtual machine and deploy your application there. But for confidential computing, usually some very high-risk data security, the data protection requirement industries like healthcare, finance, and AI. So what's the relationship between PQC and confidential computing? So confidential computing is actually relies on cryptography heavily, very heavily. So mainly focused on the several items like digital signatures, key exchange, and key generations, and key provisioning. So any cryptography that would be cracked by a quantum computer, so it's also here we need to upgrade them into PQC. So PQC-ready confidential computing is also very important. Also, actually has already been used in confidential computing as a very important underlying library for key management, for protecting data in transit, for protecting data at rest. And it also provides the basic algorithms that can make sure the trustworthiness of a remote cloud or remote or cloud environment, and we call this a actually the terminology of this is remote attestation in computational computing. So how will open source power all of this? All open source will help by enabling quantum safe TLS 1.3 and quantum safe code signing and certificates, and also PQC ready infrastructure stacks. Also the crypto agile development, just as Aditya just mentioned in his talk. So the next steps we are going to do is inside the open source community, we are going to get more AI and data security and confidential computing features into the open source code base. So the second one is we want to push the PQC transition faster in different industries. And the last one is, that's my main job in Lenovo. Actually, we are building a comprehensive solution. It's called the Quantum Resilient AI Solution into Lenovo's private and hybrid cloud solution, and offer them to the market. So that's all for my presentation. So any questions on this?
Yeah, so we can maybe take one question.
Yep.
Anyone? Oh.
Thanks for the slides. I think they're nice. What do you think it is? Is it possible to protect data in use in other ways, like computing encryption,
Yeah.
or
Homomorphic encryption. Yes.
oh yeah, so
That's
there
right,
are
right,
some
that's right.
those ways. Can you like tell something about them?
Okay. What you ask is something like this. There are actually several ways of protecting data in use, and all of this kind of technologies have a common name called privacy computing. Privacy computing technologies, and computational computing is one of the several privacy computing technologies. The cons of this confidential computing is the performance. So the performance is very important when doing something like encryption computation, right? And the other ways are their shortage. The shortage of the other ways is also mainly related to performance. For instance, the homomorphic encryption, that is to say you just do some computation on the ciphertext, right? That will be maybe 10,000 times slower than normal encryption. So it's very hard to use that kind of technology in production environment. So computational computing is the only one in recent years, maybe in the past 5 or 6 years, is the only one that's being considered in the past as a most feasible privacy computing technology.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for your presentation. And we are moving to our next presentation very soon. Okay, I think that's we can start.
Okay. So do you hear me well? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's I can see the presentations. We can see the presentations and
Okay, and I'm starting, yeah?
yeah.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Nice to meet you all. So my name is Max Kirienko and I'm one of the developer of data analysis platform Search Anywhere framework. First of all, I would like to say thank you to organizers of the Luminari Conference to the opportunity to join. Today, I'd like to share with you why it's so important in today's world to leverage and leverage knowledge and data in business decision making. So, and what the current trends in CEM. And I will show how we are using our product, Search Anywhere Framework.
Макс, можно попросить тебя заново начать? К сожалению, проблема с записью происходит.
Окей.
Я очень извиняюсь.
Окей. Начинаем?
Да, все.
Приветствие прям?
С приветствия лучше, да, на всякий случай.
Okay, okay, guys.
Извиняюсь.
Problems with recording. Yeah, it's okay. It was some problems with recording, and that's why I will repeat, but maybe some new insights here. So, yeah, my name is Max Kirienko, and I'm one of the developer of data analysis platform, Search Anywhere Framework. So first of all, I'd like to thank you to organizers, and today I will share with you why it's so important in today's world to leverage knowledge and data in business decision making, and what is the current trends in CM. So I will show our product Search Anywhere framework as an example. So how we can solving this task with our product, how we can solve these problems with our product, and today will be some practical slides describing our product and approach. So in fact, my presentation will be separated or divided into two parts. So the first part will be about the cost-effective and data-centric approach, and we will talk about the value of data in general, and the second part is CM trends. So let's start. On these slides, I want to take a quick step back and set the context of my presentation. So we have all heard about the phrase, there's more and more data, but the problem is that it often sounds quite abstract. So here I'm showing the growth of global data volume over the last few years. So we can see that in 2023, the world generated about 120 zettabytes. So 1 zettabyte is a 1 billion terabyte. And it's growing every year. And the forecast to the 20 and 26, it will be more than 240 zettabytes already. So, and when we are understanding that the data grows in this scale, so doubling in just few years, our questions to business, it's no longer should we collect data or not. So the real question is, how do we will use this in our business, in our opportunities. So here the three facts about the data decisions. So the first one is a positive signal. The companies, when the companies is trying to do decisions around the data, they are about 3 times most likely to make decisions that are more confident and higher quality. So because they rely on the measurable signals and the facts, that means the fewer mistakes, the fewer unnecessary actions, and fewer expensive experiments. So this is at minimum 3 times likely to this. At the same time, around 58 companies still rely on the intuition, so they are not using data when they making business decisions. So it doesn't happen because the leaders don't understand the quality of data or something like this. Most of them do. The issue is different. Data is often unavailable, too fragmented, not trusted, or simply too hard to interpret. So, and the third one, the half of the data that company could potentially use is not used in practice. So data exists, it's being generated and collected somewhere along the way, but when it's time to make a decision, it's turned into action and doesn't actually help. Yeah. So data right now, it's not a trendy topic, not just an analytics project or not an IT team initiative. So data is core infrastructure for making decisions that are consistent, measurable, and high quality. Yeah. And the key takeaways of the data-centric approach. So the first, you can investigate an incident if you don't have a history. So you can't recreate or recollect the data after the fact. So if you have an incident, you should have the data to discover this data. So very often companies face the same scenario. So something happens, maybe at night or during the peak hours, revenue drops, users start complaining, and when the team logs in the next morning, they only see the impact, but they cannot detect the root cause. Yeah. The second one challenge is when data exists, but it's scared. So the IT team has their own IT system and the dashboards. Security has the SIEM. The business team has reporting and analytics somewhere else. And even within the IT team, the data is often split. Logs in one place, metrics in another, APM in the third. And when an incident happens, the team doesn't start solving the problem right away. First, they have to answer the basic questions. Where is the truth? So they don't understand where they can find the truth. And that's exactly why resolutions slow down. Teams end up so pulling people in the war room, sharing the screenshots back and forth, debating with which metrics matters more, and wasting time to align the data instead fixing the issue. So when you are building the data-centric approach, you can build a unified monitoring center, the single pane of the glass. It's like a future principle single pane of glass. So all critical data in one place on a shared timeline with correlation and investigation capabilities. So it also enabled multiple teams to use the same data. So during an investigation, the key signals often comes from the different departments. Not the one of the initially owns the incident. So maybe it's some logs in IT, maybe some logs in security, maybe in business, and so you can correlate this and understand the root cause of your incident. And when you're building a data-centric approach too, so you save the data ownership. So, for example, someone using a MSSP model, so maybe some service to help you with the detection to the day-to-day operations, it's okay, it's fine. But if you are not storing the data inside your company, you will lose access to the raw events. So you just only getting the results, the results, incidents, and you lose our ability to validate, investigate, maybe learn something from incidents, and better to store your data inside. And let's try to understand this on the real situation. So, because when we are talking about the monitoring, it often feels like something purely technical, yeah? Alerts, dashboards, CPU charts, errors and logs. So, but the reality is that monitoring is not about only infrastructure, yeah? Monitoring is about running the business in uncertainty. So let's imagine the situation that happens in real companies. So during peak hours, revenue drops by 15%. So it's quite happening usually, and so it drops exactly when the load is the highest, when every hour is more expensive than usual. And in this moment, the key question is not why did the revenue drop. The question is different. How fast can we identify the cause and make the right decision? So, because if the cause is clear, we will act. It's okay. But if the cause is unclear, we start guessing, and guessing during peak hours turns directly into losses. So that's it where we get interesting. So when the business sees the revenue drop, multiply hypotheses appear immediately, and each of them requires a completely different response. So, for example, if we try to understand what is happening without data. So the first hypothesis is infrastructure issue. So maybe my service is degrading, latency increases, timeouts appears, the database can keep up, the network is saturated, and so on. So the second hypothesis, it can be a security attack. So DDoS, bot traffic, credential stuffing attempts, API overload, or suspicious spike from the specific source. So we don't understand it technically and how to detect this, and maybe we need to block on firewall some IP or something like this. The third hypothesis, it can be maybe it's application bug. For example, the deployment looked successful, but the specific payment flow started failing. So that's why our business is has a drop of our revenue. And the fourth hypothesis, it can be it's a shift in user behavior. So this doesn't sound technical, but it happens more often than people expect. So the traffic source changed, the different audience arrives, CTR drops, the shopping cart mix changes, and so on. So that's why we are losing our money, and it's all about the data. And how we suggest to solve this with our product. So some slides about our product here. So we are suggesting to deploy in your infrastructure inside such products like a Search Anywhere framework. So that we have a Swiss knife for your data. We collect all the data inside. It can be IT logs, it can be cybersecurity logs, it can be some business metrics. And if we put it inside, we can pull out like multiple items. So if we need a knife, we will get the knife. If we will need the fork, we will pull the fork. And so the same with the data. So we're just grabbing the most likely instrument at this point. And if such products have the multiple models, like inside in our product, so we can grab the core, we can grab some models about incident manager to detect incidents, we can do some stuff with the cybersecurity if we are using MyProtect model or the cybersecurity model, for example, or if we need to detect the IT spikes, we get the servers. And so you need to use such a product that give you opportunity to get all logs inside, get the data lake, security data lake inside, and using it by dashboards, by incident management, by the IT metrics, and by business metrics. So in such products like a Search Anywhere framework, you can use it. But it's not a demo of our product, but I just added some new slides. And let's a little bit more deeper inside the cybersecurity and what's the trends in the SIEM and the security in incident event management, and how we are living inside 2025 and 2026 right now. It's like in the theme of my second part, it's like a little bit spoiler, and why in the future we need to use the single platform instead the different instruments like a SIEM, SOAR, and IRP. So let's try to discuss this. So this is especially a real interesting topic for discussion. So, and before we get into our reasoning, let's start from the Gartner slide. So I hope you know what is a Gartner. So it's annual rankings about the products in monitoring and in cybersecurity. So, and if we are talking about the SIEM and SOAR and IRP platforms, so let me describe the SOAR. It's a security architect automation and response, of course, and IRP, it's an incident response platform. So it's a next step for the SIEM, where we can automate the response on our incident. So, and in 2024, when the Gartner published these slides, we can see that SOAR solution fell into throw of disillusionment. So the stage where the products lose the hype cycle momentum and stop being seen as hot, and customers gradually pay less attention to them. So the SOAR platforms and IRP drops down. Following that trend, Gartner did not publish a dedicated ranking for SOAR solutions in 2024, which highlights the growing expectation that the SIEM platforms should include SOAR and IRP capabilities as part of their core functionality. So, and the next year, in 2025, the SIEM platforms that already had built-in IRP elements and SOAR capabilities improved their positions, and the rankings are moving into the leading category. So the SOAR and IRP capabilities inside the platform, it's the most powerful tool by the Gartner. So in its publications, the Gartner also highlighted the market demand for so-called advanced all-in-one platforms. So we are not talking about only CM now. We are talking about all-in-one platforms, solutions that not only detects incidents, but also supports structured processes and enabled automated response. Yeah. So, and here I make a slide. So it's our expertise, like analytic team. So we are developing and using the SIEM about, I think, 20 years of our company. What makes a SIEM advanced? So what is it? What is it, advanced SIEM or all-in-one platform? So the first component is, of course, a classic SIEM. So correlation, maybe real-time or retrospective, traditional rule-based approach that defines most SIEM solutions today. So, and typically it also includes fairly standard manually response actions, or they propose to use as an external SOAR tool, which exactly the direction we want to move away from. Yeah. So the second block is advanced SIEM is embedding IRP directly into the platform. So like a native part of the SIEM. So that means that incident management capabilities, the ability to classify and standardize incident types and configure the different handling workflows. So it's inside the SIEM. And what we believe it's also critical, built-in communication during investigation. So maybe a chat inside the SIEM, maybe developing the war room inside the SIEM, or the knowledge base inside SIEM. It's not a different platform. We don't need a different tab for this in the browser or something like this. So, and the third component it's SOAR capabilities. So what we expect from the advanced SIEM here, first of all, out-of-the-box integration with the popular security tool. So infrastructure systems and common enterprise environments. It should also allow you to build automated sequence of the actions. So it can be playbooks for incident handling maybe, or some automated actions. And finally, a fairly standard but still essential capabilities, so automated notifications and distribution for the incident information. So here that makes the SIEM advanced. And the current trends of the SIEM, so the first one, I think it's architecture. More and more of solutions is trying to give you an opportunity to get the data lake architecture. So we are not only posting the events, that creating incidents and storing only the incidents. We need to store all the data, all the raw events also, and build the data lake that it's trying to store your data for, I don't know, 3 years or 5 years, because now we detect that we have the long-running attacks which could unfold over weeks or months or few years, and the hackers or someone is trying to do something bad, I think maybe one action in week or one action in month. And when they incite our infrastructure for 3 years, for example, to detect this, we need to understand the whole data. Because now I don't understand that my infrastructure was attacked because of some attackers is not showing them by the years. And if we need to understand the root cause, the point where I was hacked, I need to store this data. And of course, the second and the third one is detection and investigation. So when we talk about detection, it can be a risk-based correlation rule. So if something happened with the user or the host, we're just adding some risk, some scoring inside this. And after, if we're understanding that the scoring is high, we're producing an incident. It can be the behavior of users, behavior of hosts. Of course, we will use the machine learning and AI tools to do the detection, and of course the investigation tools like structured workflows, unified console for investigation, and so on, and of course the knowledge base inside. So, and let me show you how we are just doing this inside our product. It's like an example. So first of all, if we're producing the incidents, we're starting from the incident card, and so you need to be able to set up the incident card that makes your analytics store their knowledge when they are investigating the incident. So, for example, it can be the field like a reviewer or the line of these incidents, maybe some UBA new fields. And inside our platform, we just getting you the ability to set up the or configure the incident card, so you can add some new lines, add some new fields, maybe initiator, workflow name, related incidents, review, and you just using the constructor of this. And of course, the second step in IRP, it's a workflow. So for example, in our system, you can build the workflow of your incidents. So for example, it can be the new status when the incident's created, the next step, it can be in progress, the next step, self check, maybe user blocked. And so you can just, as analytic, you're just clicking on the new status and some actions appear. You're moving the status, you're understanding how this incident was investigated and so on. And you just can click on the status, looks on the role-based access, and maybe someone can produce the action of user blocked or someone cannot. But it especially gives you opportunity to just understand who can do this action or who cannot do this action. So also you can do this inside incident, so you're not moving in another SOAR platform. You just clicking on the button. For example, you can block user, especially from the incident manager tool, and you just run this action. You can get information about how this action was run. Is it blocked or not, or you have some problems. So that give you a time, but if incident produced and you will need to do some automatical tools, so you just need to save time, and you can do this inside the incident manager, for example. Or you can build the automate workflow. So for example, if some incidents assigned to me, then I need to run a playbook automatically, and I automatically get command history, lock a local account, or kill process by PID. So it can be done especially automatically, and I just need to click only on the one action, and I will run the kill chain of this. Yeah, and then when I blocked all the users, kill all the process, I can get some time to get some analytics by search language or drill down to the raw events and so on. And of course, you need, in the new generation SIEM, you need to be able to get the tools of investigation artifacts. In our solution, it can be some blocks about your acknowledgement. So it can be the text block, the incident block. It's like maybe Python Jupyter notebook, if you understand what is it. So it's just like blocks when every block can be runnable or can give you an information about this. And you can store your investigation, for example, how you investigate the incidents in the last years. And at the next time when this incident occurs, so you just share this knowledge with another analytic, and they drill downing on this information and understand what is happening here. So, and of course, the last thing, this is incident statistics. So you may be able to get the report about what is incidents you have right now, what is SLA, what is SLA for resolution, for response, how many incidents closed today or in this week, and how many incidents in progress right now, and what is a workload of every analytics on. So the main thing in this, the second part, that the trend of future on this year or the 2027, I think we will replace the few elements of the cybersecurity, like a SIEM, like a knowledge base, maybe Confluence, like a SOAR, like a ERP, to the one solution. So we suggested to do with the SAF, of course, but maybe it's just a different product. But it's a trend, and I think to save the time of analytics, save the time of investigating a new incident, you must have the one solution that provides you to respond on every log, to collect every log, to do some investigation, create a dashboard, store your knowledge, store your inventory information, and so on. So especially you can do this with SAF. So guys, that's it. That's two parts of the trends in cybersecurity and data analysis in 2026. I think maybe you have some questions at this point.
Yeah, so we can take some questions from the audience. Okay.
Thank you for your speech. Is it possible to query logs, like if I speak like with ChatGPT, like tell me what happened 3 days ago with these services between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m., something like that?
Yeah, so yes, in our solution you can try to do this. We are developing the fast mode, like the tool like this. So because if you, but this is a really hard question about secure. So if you are not providing the LLM inside your company and you're not able to share your data inside the cloud solutions, maybe ChatGPT, OpenAI, or something like this, so you need able to do LLM inside. But if you connect this, you can just ask something about what did the Richard yesterday with the PowerShell scripts, and so this will produce a search query inside index that's storing data about PowerShell logs. We'll filter this about to user Richard and calculate maybe some statistics and give you the answer like a raw events or maybe visualization table or a pie chart, something like this. So we are moving inside this tool, and I think in 2026 it will work like this. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks. There is an Amazon queue which you can ask about your services inside AWS. So it will be nice to have something like that.
Yeah, I think that all of IT world trying to do something like this. Yeah, and we also.
One more question. Are you planning to have some small version open sourced so people can play with it? I mean, free open source something, which you can
in our product, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, all of your solution, so I can install it my home lab and just play with it.
Yeah, so we have public, we call it laboratory or something like this. So it's just deploying in public, and if you will ask us to give you the user and password, you can go through the demo booth, and inside this demo stand, you have generators. You have the data, you have data from cybersecurity, from IT, from the business logs, and you can click, try some queries, look at the dashboards, look at the asset service models, trees, and something like this. So just mail us for the maybe in LinkedIn or maybe on our site, and we will give you opportunity to join the laboratory, and you can try.
Yep, thank you. Okay, thank you. So we don't have any other questions at the moment. Thank you for your presentations. And oh, okay, you muted, but
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for attention, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Maxim.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, bye. Thanks. So this actually concludes our conference. Thank you for your attention, and see you next time.